Welcome to our deep dive into the financial freedom paradox. Why zeroing out your monthly surplus is a risky myth. We will explore why a strong savings rate and maxed out retirement accounts are fantastic, yet still not a green light to spend every remaining dollar. We will cover risk mitigation, smart surplus strategies, and practical steps to add optionality to your life. To begin, we will quickly outline the agenda and then move into an important disclaimer to set expectations. Here is our roadmap for the video. First, we will dissect the paradox itself. Next, we will review non-negotiable risk mitigation practices. Then, we will design a smart surplus strategy and walk through a quick setup process. Afterward, we will examine insurance and health cost realities and compare zeroing out your surplus with a strategic approach. We will visualize the concepts with diagrams, test your understanding with brief quizzes, and close with key takeaways. Now, before we start, let's set a quick disclaimer. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, tax, legal, or investment advice. Your situation is unique, so consult a qualified professional before making decisions. With that foundation set, let's clarify the paradox. The paradox arises when strong savings momentum leads to overconfidence. Achieving a savings rate above 20% and building tax-advantaged balances of $200,000 by your late 30s is outstanding. However, it does not confer immunity against job loss, a major medical event, or shifts in insurance coverage. Therefore, assuming you can spend all surplus dollars on immediate pleasures is flawed. Next, we will examine the core risks that can derail a financial plan even when your current position looks strong. First, job security remains uncertain, even for high achievers, because corporate reprioritization and strategic layoffs can occur without warning. Second, medical costs can escalate rapidly through premiums, deductibles, and out-of-pocket expenses, particularly before Medicare eligibility. Third, insurance coverage gaps can expose your assets. Targeting auto liability limits of at least $100,000 per person and $300,000 per accident, along with maximized uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, can be critical. Fourth, avoid anchoring your lifestyle to employer-subsidized health insurance, because it can vanish with a job change. Finally, recognize that a sequence of risks, such as a layoff occurring alongside a medical event, can accelerate financial damage. With risks defined, let us shift into how to manage surpluses intelligently, rather than trying to force consumption. Rather than pressuring yourself to spend, treat surpluses as flexible capital. First, automate a monthly sweep of surpluses into either a taxable brokerage account for growth or a high-yield savings account for near-term flexibility. This maintains optionality, allowing you to spend later or accelerate retirement. Second, create sinking funds for predictable large expenses, such as replacing a car or paying for major home maintenance, thereby avoiding new loans. Third, incorporate budgeted joy categories like travel or dining as intentional line items. Funds can roll over month to month, providing guilt-free enjoyment without undermining your savings trajectory. Next, we will walk through a quick setup process to implement this system. Set up the system in under 30 minutes. First, select a conservative surplus figure that you can sustain. Second, define your buckets. A high-yield savings account for 3 to 6 months of expenses, a brokerage account for long-term investments, and sinking funds for predictable large purchases. Third, automate transfers on payday so the money moves before you can spend it impulsively. Fourth, name your accounts clearly to reduce decision fatigue. Fifth, establish guardrails by setting minimum balances for emergency and health-related buffers, allowing spending only on amounts above those thresholds. Finally, conduct a brief monthly review to reconcile balances, roll over unspent joy money, and adjust contributions as your income or needs evolve. With the system in place, let us ground this with insurance and health cost realities. This table lists high-leverage insurance and buffer targets. Aim for at least $100,000 per person and $300,000 per accident for auto liability. Maximize uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage. Consider a $1 million umbrella policy when asset exposure warrants it. Understand your health plan's out-of-pocket maximum to size your emergency reserve appropriately. If eligible, maximize contributions to a health savings account. Price co-BRA or marketplace plans in advance to anticipate costs if employer coverage ends. Consider short-term disability coverage if your cash buffer is thin, and ensure long-term disability coverage replaces 60 to 70% of income. Maintain an emergency fund covering 3 to 6 months of expenses. Next, let us compare two approaches to surplus: zeroing out versus directing it strategically. On the left, the zero-out approach anchors spending to current benefits and leaves no margin for shocks, increasing the likelihood of expensive debt and painful cutbacks during surprises. Optionality erodes. On the right, strategic surplus management assigns money to joy categories intentionally, automates investing in buffers, and pre-funds big expenses, allowing you to absorb shocks with minimal disruption. Optionality expands. With the comparison clear, we will now visualize the decision flow. This flowchart begins by calculating monthly surpluses. The first decision checks whether emergency and health-related buffers are funded. If not, funds are directed to those buffers first. If they are funded, the next decision evaluates near-term large expenses, such as vehicle replacement or home repairs. If present, money flows into sinking funds. Otherwise, surplus is directed to a brokerage or high-yield savings account. A side branch addresses discretionary spending urges by referencing the joy bucket balance. If sufficient, spending proceeds, and if not, the plan advises waiting and allowing funds to roll over. This creates a disciplined yet flexible pathway that preserves optionality. This pie chart illustrates one possible allocation of surplus: 50% to brokerage or high-yield savings, 25% to sinking funds, 15% to budgeted joy, and 10% to insurance or health buffers. These allocations are illustrative and must be customized to income stability, upcoming expenses, health risks, and personal priorities. This timeline showcases possible adverse events over a decade: a minor auto incident in year 2, a layoff in year 3, higher COBRA premiums in year 4, a home HVAC replacement in year 6, a short illness triggering the deductible in year 7, another car replacement in year 9, and a market downturn in year 10. The purpose is not to predict exact timing, but to demonstrate that such events are common. A strategic surplus plan anticipates and funds these interruptions without jeopardizing long-term goals. The Mindmap centers on optionality. Liquidity stems from high-yield savings, taxable brokerage, and potentially a health savings account. Insurance includes auto liability, uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage, umbrella coverage, and disability insurance. Sinking funds cover vehicles and major home projects. Income flexibility emerges from side income and ongoing skill development. The Joy budget supports travel and experiences. Automation and rollover features reinforce consistent behavior and maintain optionality over time. Now let's convert these concepts into a simple markdown template you can copy. Here is a markdown template you can copy into your Notes app or budgeting tool. It includes sections for income, fixed and variable essentials, and your emergency or health buffer target. Under Automated Sweeps, specify monthly transfers to your high-yield savings, brokerages, and health savings account if eligible. List your sinking funds for car replacement and major home projects, and define your budgeted joy categories with rollover settings. Establish guardrails, such as a minimum high-yield savings balance and a rule to spend only from accumulated joy balances. Finally, set a review cadence: monthly reconciliations, quarterly insurance pricing scenarios, and an annual review of your allocation and goals. Next, let's test your understanding with a quick quiz. Question: if you are already saving above 20% and have over $200,000 in retirement accounts by your late 30s, what is the best use of monthly surplus? Option A: spend it all now on lifestyle upgrades because you are mathematically on track. Option B: direct it strategically by automating sweeps, funding buffers, using sinking funds, and budgeting joy intentionally. Option C: keep it entirely in cash to avoid all market risk. Option D: ignore insurance and focus solely on investment returns. You may pause the video now to consider your answer. We will discuss the correct choice in the next section. The correct answer is to direct it strategically by automating sweeps, funding buffers, employing sinking funds, and budgeting joy intentionally. This approach preserves flexibility, mitigates risk, and maintains your savings trajectory while allowing enjoyment. Now let's try one more question on insurance. Question: which insurance setup most reduces the risk that a single accident or health event derails your plan? Option A: state minimum auto liability with no uninsured or underinsured motorist coverage and no disability coverage. Option B: robust auto liability of at least $100,000 and $300,000, maximized uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, and adequate disability insurance. Option C. Rely entirely on employer health coverage without emergency reserves. Option D. Cancel insurance and invest the premiums. You may pause the video now to think about the answer. We will disclose the correct option in the next section. The correct choice is robust auto liability coverage of at least $100,000 and $300,000, maximized uninsured and underinsured motorist coverage, and adequate disability insurance. This combination addresses asset and income protection during adverse events. With the quizzes complete, let's consolidate the most important points. Here are the key takeaways. Strong savings momentum is valuable, but it does not guarantee immunity from future shocks. Prioritize optionality over forced spending. Automate transfers to brokerage or high-yield savings. Use sinking funds for predictable major costs. Include joy categories in your plan so enjoyment is intentional and stable. Right-size insurance to protect both assets and income. Finally, review regularly and adapt as circumstances evolve. Now let's wrap up with a brief summary. In summary, zeroing out your surplus is risky because unexpected events happen. Directing surplus strategically preserves freedom both now and in the future. Set up automation, buffers, and joy buckets this week, and revisit insurance and health costs at least annually. Finally, here is a quick thank you and a call to action. Thank you for watching. If this video was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe for more content. Share your thoughts and your own surplus strategy in the comments. Your perspective may help others refine their plan. See you next time.